Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two lovers of Formula One. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the third part of the 1970 race review season. So let's go.
There was a lot of H's in there, Louis. Hello, how are you?
I was struggling with those words.
We won't tell everyone how many takes it took to do that one.
Yeah, it was 3. But, you know, we got there.
Yeah, we got there. And so who's the band of that particular...
normally I know, but I've forgotten.
I'll put you on the spot.
You have. I've forgotten. Do you want to Google it while
I'm going to Google it. Yeah.
I know it's a mellow band. Oh, let me have a guess. It's a sad song. Is it about, does the brother die?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's by, have you given up? Have you got a guess?
I've given up. Yeah, I've given up. Yeah.
The Hollies.
The Hollies. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Well, anyway, it goes in with the theme of the second part where we had 2 deaths.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
And we still haven't hit the tragedy of 1970 yet, which is not great.
No.
Yeah, so this is fast becoming 58 part 2.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's hope we have a clean race with the 1970 French Grand Prix.
Yes, okay. Race 6. Sort of
of
halfway. We'll hit halfway. Yes.
And we still don't really have a championship leader. There's still a gaggle of people, right?
That's right.
So this race is at Clermont-Ferrand, July the 5th, 38 laps, 23 drivers, a 3x2x3 grid formation, and the race was warm and sunny. So we have that little situation again, Rosa. The organisers are trying to restrict the number of starters to 20, which is every time they do this, it means there's going to be only 4 or 5 finishes.
Yes, exactly.
Except for the 10 that had guaranteed starting positions, the rest had to fight it out, which is like the last race drama, or the race before, I think.
Yeah. Like, this is now an ongoing saga for 1970. Let's just hope that the organisers don't chop and change the grid structure halfway through. I mean, we even had to see the CIA step in and tell the organisers they were going against their own rules.
While they were on the grid.
What? Yes. But there's been some key driver changes since the last race, which, as we said, included the sad absence of Pierre's Courage. Surtees was also missing as he was preparing his new team's car. So, because he's been driving a McLaren up to now. So he's getting his own car ready. And I think it comes in the next Grand Prix. And Denny Holm was also back for McLaren. He had sustained some burns prepping for Indianapolis, but he was back, but his hands were still not fully healed. And, yeah, he's driving in some pain. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Yeah. And so we get to the race. And don't forget, I wonder how Graham Hill is going with his...
Yeah, we haven't heard much about him, have we?
Yeah. He got those points in a row.
He did, yeah. He's sort of like in the back half of the race finishes at this point in time, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so...
We don't tend to spend much time on those.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see how he recovers then. So Friday practice was expected to be dominated by Rindt. He's been on form lately, and the Lotus 72. But instead, we're back to Stewart again in the Tyrrell.
Oh, you're loving this.
Yeah, I am. It's a real ding-dong battle between those two. Who was setting the fastest time of the day, followed by Eamon in the March, Holm in the McLaren, and Beltoise in the Matra.
So off the track, Ickx and Giunti of the Ferrari team were not able to practice as they were waiting for their Ferrari transporter to arrive.
Well, this is France, right?
Yes. It's really not that
just
far
checking.
from...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Maybe Italy is having another strike. Remember? Like, they always have strikes there.
You know what it is? It's like the normal rule of life. The person that lives the closest to work is always the last one that turns up. They leave it they cut it too fine, just like Ferrari just did. Yeah. So on Saturday, the Ferraris could finally participate and they quickly showed some strong pace. However, nobody got below the 3-minute barrier. So on Saturday afternoon, conditions were better and Beltoise set a blistering time. Beltoise in the BRM? Yeah?
Yes.
Is he in the BRM? Yeah. He set a blistering time of 2 minutes 58.7, but even this time was beaten by Ickx, who settled it with 2 minutes 58.22.
So this track is a lot like Monaco, and in 2024 it was really important to get a really good grid position. So that's, I think, why everyone is fighting it out, trying to get up the grid, because it's very twisty and it's going to make overtaking really difficult here.
Yeah, okay. So by the end of practice, 6 drivers had now broken into the sub 3-minute barrier, with Eamon third, Stewart in the Tyrrell next, and Brabham in the Brabham fifth, with Rint in sixth.
Yeah, so considering the dominance of the last race, Rint is surprisingly low in sixth. But he really hated this track. Like, it upset his stomach ulcer. Like, it's every story you read about this track mentions his stomach or ulcer. So it was actually a big thing for him, and it actually made him really physically ill. And to make matters worse, he got hit by a loose rock during qualifying, giving him a bad cut on his face. So
wow.
He's in the wars, is Rint.
He's in the wars. And if what you say is the case, that every race review that talked about this race talked about his ulcer, that's a premonition of a boring race.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If
why
that's
is that getting? Yeah, it's a real concern.
Good point.
Yeah.
But stick with us, listeners. We'll make it exciting.
Oh yeah, we'll extract every bit of ulcer news out of this. So on race day, there was last-minute panic within the Ferrari camp because it was discovered that there was an engine problem.
Oh,
and as there was a 15-minute untimed session being held after lunch, Ix tried the spare car but found it was not running properly.
What?
So Ix instead chose to run with his race car with the understanding that it may not last the race distance.
Oh, that's a tough call. Like, he has a good race car, and it did set an awesome race time, but it had a problem. I don't know what I'd do in this situation. What would you do?
I don't know, but first of all, did they tell everyone or did they keep it to themselves, first of all?
Good question. I don't know. Knowing Ferrari, everyone would know.
Yeah, true. But I think I'd take the car that got pole, and maybe he could just drive that more gently. So that's the car he's taking, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that what he said?
Yes,
yeah.
He's chosen to take his race car. Yeah, he's taken a chance with the car that got him pole but has a problem with the engine.
Yeah, and you'd think they've done some things around it to make it a bit better.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
So to the race start, despite his concerns, Ix stormed off into the lead, and along with Beltoise and the Matra. Who's in Matra?
Beltoise is in the Matra.
Yeah, I think he was in the BRM before.
Rodriguez is in the BRM.
Yeah. They soon left the rest behind. So it was becoming clear that these two, with their powerful 12-cylinder engines, remember the Ford Cosworths were all V8s, right? They had the measure of the field, and even Stewart was left behind. Yeah, so within a few laps, Ix and Beltoise were 4 seconds clear.
Okay, well, this is the 12-cylinder Ferrari.
Yeah.
Enzo must be loving it. See? Engines.
He loves this track.
Big engines, that's right.
So on lap 4, Stewart had a technical issue, and after a lengthy stop, came out 18th, and he was effectively out of the running. So we won't be talking about Mr. Stewart anymore. Lap 7, there was the usual gaggle of retirements and car issues behind the leaders, and this included the BRM cars all having issues or retiring.
Jeepers, that's quick. Did they win a race like a couple of races ago?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And now they're like nowhere. They've fallen off a cliff.
Yeah. And I think, did BRM have the 12-cylinder? Because they have their own engine, remember?
They did. No, they had a V8, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They had a V8. It was a new engine, but it was a V8.
Yeah, but they're out now.
Yeah.
So Rint had passed Eamon to move up into third place, but he could make no impression on the leading duo of Ix and Beltoise, who basically continued pulling away.
We have not heard at all of Ix and Beltoise dominating any race, and now here they are dominating a race.
Yeah, this is a real topsy-turvy season, isn't it? Like, and hate to say it again, we've mentioned it earlier in the other race, a couple of races ago. Like the level B drivers coming up.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know that Ix will be happy being talked about as level B.
Yeah. Win a championship and I'll shut up, Ix.
Yeah.
or win one in the future, you know?
Yeah.
So on lap 15, the crowd erupted because remember, this is the French Grand Prix.
French Grand Prix, yep.
As Beltoise, the French driver in a French team.
At his French track.
Yeah, at the French track, yes. Ix's engine, however, finally caused him to limp into the pits to retire. So that's a real pity.
So it's 38 laps and he's retiring at lap 15. Do you reckon it was worth it? Like, should he have gotten in the spare car? Would he have gotten further?
I think he did the right thing.
Okay.
Go for glory.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
But what if the car held on? What if
exactly.
It held on for 15 laps?
Well, given that everyone else is having trouble, maybe his other car could have still, I don't know.
What,
anyway.
come second or third or fourth, starting from the back of the grid or something?
At least he would finish. I think we have to remember the finish of this season, Lloyd. I think we have to pin this moment. I think we have to. This is another pin, I think.
This is the second pin, isn't it? Because the first pin was Brabham, Rint not joining Brabham.
Yep.
And this is the second pin. Okay, interesting. And if I recall correctly, in the championship, I don't think X is up there.
No,
if that's where I think that's where you're heading. But let's see.
That's where I'm heading. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So Beltoise looked to be in complete command by lap 20, with a lead of about 17 seconds ahead of Rint in the Lotus, and Rint was 2 seconds ahead of Eamon in the March.
Okay, why am I getting like not good feeling vibes right now? Like you said looked to be in complete command. Did you say that or did Mike Lang write that? Why weren't the words was in complete command? Something's going to happen. I feel it.
Yeah, Mike Lang wrote looked to be.
Okay.
Yeah, with the power of hindsight, I adopted it for good reason.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, on lap 22, Rint pulled back 3 seconds, and by lap 23, Rint closed the gap by a further 4 seconds. So this is dramatic catching up.
That's big. So did Mike Lang get excited? Did he write something like, people began to sit up and take notice?
How did you know? Yeah. So unfortunately, the Frenchman in the French car on the French track had a slow puncture. And within 2 laps, Rint had caught the ailing Matra, and on lap 26, he took the lead.
How's his stomach ulcer going, I wonder?
Yeah. Yeah, me too. This race isn't that great so far, is it? And I think that's why. This is not much happening, right?
No.
Even Eamon passed Beltoise, and it was not long before Beltoise dove into the pits to fix the issue, which pretty much moved him out of contention. So he must have realised staying out was just not working anymore.
I wonder who their tyre supplier was and whether they're like now in hiding or slowly trying to leave the track without anyone noticing. Like they'd be like a puncture is something that, especially a
It's
a
not
slow
the tyre
puncture.
company's fault. It could be something on the track.
Okay. We don't really hear of punctures a lot.
Yeah, we hear more about it in the 70s as the 70s progresses, I think. But for some reason, yeah, you're right. They don't talk about it.
There's never been punctures. Yeah. Maybe once we've talked about a puncture, a weird one.
I reckon it's because the tyres get thinner.
Yes.
And more competitive. Like, think of your own road car. You can ride over a nail and she's fine.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Whereas, okay. All right, what's going on?
Yeah, so Rint drove steadily and proceeded to win by 7.6 seconds ahead of Eamon in the March. No more mention of the stomach ulcer.
No.
Brabham came home in third by less than a second ahead of Holm in the McLaren. So that would have been interesting to hear a bit more about, but I don't think it was very interesting.
No.
And poor Beltoise had further issues, a fuel pump, and he finished a sad 13th.
Oh, that's not good for French pride.
No.
Poor Beltoise. All right, well, we've got, so Jochen Rindt has pulled out a little bit of a gap now. He's on 27. Jackie Stewart's on 19 with Jack Brabham on 19. So they're having a good battle. And, Chris Amon and Denny Holm are both on 12. Wow.
Interesting, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and Jackie X nowhere.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. And I think this is where you pin it after this race.
I think we pin it after this race. Well, that was a defining moment, I think, given... Yeah. Anyway, so on the constructor side, we've got Lotus Ford on 32, only just ahead of March Ford on 31. Brabham Ford's on 21 and McLaren Ford is on 19.
Wow. Okay. And Matra didn't
Matra's
get any
on
points.
15. Yeah, they didn't get anything this race.
So now we head to a race that love-hate race. We've talked about this. It's become that to me, the British Grand Prix. I love this race, and also it's sometimes a very boring race. But then sometimes it's awesome. It's a real mixed bag.
I think it depends because they keep switching between Silverstone and Brands Hatch as well, don't they? So maybe the Brands Hatch one is the boring one and Silverstone is the exciting one.
And that's the one we've got now. That's the one we've got now in the 20s, right?
We got Brands Hatch, yeah. We got Silverstone now.
We got Silverstone, yeah. So this is at Brands Hatch, July 18, about 80 laps. Well, not about, it is. 26 drivers, a 3x2x3 grid, and the weather is warm and sunny. So, as is the case, I think as a lot of teams are based in the UK, this race attracted a very large field of 30 cars with a lot to turn, and with 25 materialising.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I think...
So maybe they had like 30 cars register, but only 25 actually turning up.
Yeah,
That's the way I read that.
That's how I read that too.
Yeah.
I think it was a bit of a Mike Lang term.
Yeah. So the biggest news for the weekend, and I seem to be on like retirement watch here, Luigi, is that Rindt had reached out to Lotus boss Chapman to advise him that he was considering retirement at the end of this season. So you've got to remember, Rindt's been in big accidents. He's seen his best friend die on track, which was Pierre's Courage.
Broken nose, the wings broke, stomach ulcer.
Yeah, he's not in a good place, and the Lotus is giving him trouble. Although he actually, won really well in the previous race. But anyway, so as a result of that news, Colin promoted up-and-coming driver Emerson Fittipaldi to drive in the older Lotus 49C for his F1 debut. So I think in this race they've got 3 cars running.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting to hear the debut of Mr. Fittipaldi.
Yes.
He's a driver that has more success than X. Hence we give him credit.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So there are a lot of amazing drivers making their debut in 1970. And wow, Rindt considering retirement.
Yeah. He's pretty young.
He was about 28.
I know. Like I said, he was probably he'd probably seen his fair share of big accidents and deaths, and must have been enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a hot property driver. Like the teams all wanted him.
Yeah.
So what is not said much of Rindt in these Mike Lang books is that Rindt's manager was none other than Mr. Bernie Ecclestone.
Really? No way.
Yeah, not only was Bernie Ecclestone his manager, but they were also very close friends.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So the other news is that Surtees makes his own Formula One team debut in this race using the Ford engine. So keep a close eye on that. And Ferrari are giving Regazzoni another F1 outing, and they've replaced Giunti with him.
Are you sure Giunti is pronounced that way?
I am 100% sure.
100% sure. Well, he doesn't really get remembered in the history books, does he?
No.
Yeah, okay. Poor Giunti. Okay, so other driver changes were that Andretti was making another F1 appearance for the STP Oil March team.
Oh, there you go. They're oil.
Yeah, oil. Okay, there you go. I thought it was spark plugs, didn't I? And Redmond was making his debut for the Frank Williams team in place of the unfortunate Pierre's Courage.
Right.
So on the first day of practice, BRM surprised many by setting some very strong times, especially Oliver. But it was Rindt who set a blistering time, 1 minute 24.8, which was amazing considering the lap record sat with Brabham of 1 minute 25.8. So a whole second on the first practice.
On the first practice. And BRM.
Yes, I forgot that. Yeah. So while Rindt got the 100 bottles of champagne for pole position, as it turned out, Brabham equaled his time. However, as he did at second, he gets second on the grid. X up there in the Ferrari, followed by Oliver in the BRM and Holm in the McLaren. So those 2 BRMs, they're sort of up there. Oh no, this is just Oliver who slipped down, but he was up there. Yeah.
And they're still doing the champagne bottle thing. Like I don't think France are doing it anymore, but like it started in France and now Britain keep doing it.
Well, I mean, we joked about the foods and all that, but what's the British drink if they were, because champagne's a region of France, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What's the British drink? The Guinness.
Guinness or
you had to
beer.
drink a big trophy of Guinness, Yeah. So we're to the race start, and we have X and Brabham. They were off the mark, super fast, and then Rindt, and they took the first corner side by side. So the 3 of them are up there. So X dove up the inside at Druids and took the lead, and by the end of the first lap, he built out a 1.5 second lead already.
Wow. See, Ick's in that Ferrari's good combination. It's taken him a while, but yeah.
So Brabham was in second with Rint in the Lotus right on his tail, then Oliver right behind him. So pretty tight 1, 2, 3, 4, except for Ick's already jumping ahead. On lap 7, Ick slowed with a transmission issue at just the same time that Rint made a pass on Brabham. So the three were all together, and as Rint launched from third to first, going up the hill to Druids.
Wow, that is exciting when someone goes from third to first in one move.
Yeah, you don't see that often.
Don't see it very often, no. But he took a good advantage of that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, and this is an era when, as a viewer at the track, you wouldn't know what was going on. Why is that happening? Why is Ick slowing up a bit?
That's
right.
It would have,
now, we know why it sort of happened, but it would have been more dramatic on the track.
Exactly.
So once in the lead, Rint quickly started to leave everyone else behind, everyone except Brabham, who stuck with Rint right up to lap 20, and they were never more than 2 lengths apart. At half distance, Rint was still leading Brabham by the smallest of margins, while Oliver in the BRM was 23 seconds in arrears, and Holm in the McLaren a further 25 seconds back.
See, this is just another, this is the problem. The British races either have really tight action, or everyone is really spread out and the race is a bit flat. But I think it's got to do with the track, because I reckon I don't know. Well, I haven't really done a deep dive on it, but yeah, this one's a bit flat, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, a bit exciting at the beginning, but I mean, admittedly, sometimes when you're at a Formula One track, and you and I, Rosa, have been together, it's exciting when you're there.
It is.
And you might still remember that, even though the race might become like this one has become so far.
You're right. There's a different atmosphere when you're there.
Now, we haven't talked much about the 69 champion, but Stewart was having a tough time of it, and he was losing ground due to poor handling, a deflating tyre, and he eventually retired about lap 53, but he was not really a contender. We're only mentioning him because he normally is.
You love him because you love him.
Yeah, okay. And why won't he come on our podcast? I should actually ask him. I haven't actually asked him. Yeah.
Okay.
So the crowd, however, was disappointed, though, when Oliver's BRM, so I guess that's the equivalent of the Beltoire's Matra French Grand Prix.
Yes, that's
so you got Oliver, BRM, expired in a puff of smoke right in front of the pits.
Again, he keeps mentioning that. You're right. But that's 2 British retirements. The crowd must have been very, very sad.
Yeah. So there are just 12 laps to go, and the situation finally changed because Rint made an error with a gear change, and Brabham was finally through into the lead.
Go, Brabham.
Remember when Rint pressured Brabham into an error?
Yes.
So
I wonder if Brabham was pressuring him. He doesn't say so, but...
Well, it was like 2 car lengths and all that.
Yes,
so
that's
I'd
right.
suggest that he was in the mirrors.
That's right.
Yeah. So over the next 11 laps, it didn't seem to be the case because Brabham built up a 13-second lead.
Wow, that is huge. That's almost like a second a lap.
Yeah, that's pretty massive. Yeah, you're right. However, on the last lap, Brabham spluttered out of fuel. So Rint went flying past to take the win, leaving Brabham to coast over the line into second place.
That is so unlucky. I don't know. Is it unlucky or is it poor management?
We talked about this. Is there a fuel gauge?
I know.
Are they being surprised?
Are they driving it?
I'm sure. I make a bet he was surprised. Brabham's been around. He knows you run out of fuel if you gun it too much.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and he was ready for retirement. He was forced to race. He had this race in the bag. It would have been an awesome kind of final year win for him again.
Yeah. So was that on the last lap or just towards the end? Because I was the last lap.
It's the last lap.
There's a second time Rint's taken the lead on the last lap against Brabham. So the third for this season, I mean, it could have happened before as well. The battle for third was a tremendous duel between Holm in the McLaren and Regazzoni in the Ferrari, with Holm taking it by 0.4 seconds and claiming third.
Well, it was a bit of a bland race in the middle bits, but it was quite exciting in that end bit, as you said, and very lucky for Rint.
Yeah. So after the race, though, a protest regarding the height of the aerofoil on Rint's Lotus was challenged. It was challenged, and it was initially upheld, and Brabham was declared the winner.
Wow, that's exciting.
Well, not quite, because then team boss Colin Chapman successfully appealed the decision and it was reversed 2 hours later and Rindt was reinstated as the winner.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what Colin did to appeal it.
And I wonder who was on the podium. It would have been Brabham.
It would have been Brabham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Emerson Fittipaldi finished 8th in the Old Lotus 49 after qualifying 21st.
Oh, wow.
21st, yeah. And Surtees, in the car he designed, had to retire with engine trouble. So that's the end of the Surtees debut.
It's not a great debut for Surtees, but Emerson Fittipaldi, that 21st to 8th, Luigi.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Pretty good.
In the Old Lotus.
In an Old Lotus. Yeah. All right. So after all the appeals and reinstatements and whatever, Jochen Rindt now is on 36 points. Brabham's on 25. Stewart's on 19. Holm is on 16. And that's as far as I go. I think they're even Holm and Stewart, I don't think they've got a chance.
There's still people missing here, as we know.
They are.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what happens in the second half of this season.
Yeah.
And on the constructors...
We are in the second half because this is race 7 of 13.
Okay, only just in the second half, but there's still something big happens, doesn't it? So Lotus Ford on 41, March Ford on 33, Brabham Ford on 27 and McLaren Ford on 23.
Okay. This championship would look different if Jack Brabham hadn't been passed on those last.
Exactly.
Because that would be 6-point swing down and up. So Rick would be 30 and Brabham would be 31.
Well, but he also got points for second, so it wouldn't be a total 6 points.
I know, I did know. It's 9-6.
Oh, you've done. Oh, it's 9-6.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
So you're right. It would be totally different.
Oh, not totally, but 1 point in the lead.
Closer, yeah.
Okay, so we're up to race 8 of 13, the German Grand Prix, and this is at Hockenheim. So not Nürburgring. I think we jump around a bit on that track side of things. I think we talk about that a little.
Yes, we do.
So the date is the 2nd of August, 50 laps, 25 drivers, 2x2 grid formation, and the weather was hot. So in the light of the deaths of Bruce McLaren and Piers Courage, the drivers asked the FIA to find a safer circuit than the usual German track of Nürburgring, as the owners still hadn't implemented a range of safety measures, which included firefighting equipment, spectator protection, etc.
I think they did a few things, but not everything, and the drivers weren't happy about it.
I mean, the track's 22 kilometres. I can imagine it was a big ask.
It would have taken a big,
Yeah, I mean, I would love them to go back there and do the upgrades. I think everyone would love that track.
I think so
and they could have the world's most attended Grand Prix easily.
Think so.
They'd have 1 million people,
I'd
problems.
Go.
Yeah, I'd probably travel to Germany just to be at the world's most attended Grand Prix of all time. So this year's Grand Prix race took place at a location that many of us in the 20s, we know the Hockenheim track,
We know the
right?
Hockenheim, exactly.
But Mike Lang called it the artificial Hockenheim track.
Artificial? Why?
Yeah. It seems that the new track had guardrails that lined the circuit, in particular, since the death of Jim Clark in 68.
Yeah, but why is he calling it artificial? Because it had safety features.
I don't know. I think he just had it in.
He was just a traditionalist and he didn't like Hockenheim.
I was going to say something more inappropriate, like he had it in for the Germans. Like some of these old school British people, you know what I mean?
Maybe. But also it was where Jim Clark died and he was a big Jim Clark fan.
He was, yeah. So he probably was like...
what are we doing at this,
Yeah, good,
artificial.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's a good positive way of looking at it. Yeah. So to the race though, the Ferrari 312B was starting to become an emerging force. So we're seeing X getting all these pole positions and whatnot. And this was shown through practice.
Finally, the words Ferrari and force used together, Luigi. Been waiting for this. It's only taken half the season.
So on the Friday, this was especially highlighted by the new Ferrari driver Regazzoni when he lapped the track with the fastest time. X was not too far behind, but Rindt was 1.1 seconds further back.
Wow, Regazzoni, this is really making a statement. Like, X is no slouch. He's very competitive. So that's good.
So in final qualifying, only 3 drivers broke the 2-minute barrier, with X justifying the Ferrari hype by getting pole, followed by Rindt in the Lotus, so he improved. And Regazzoni, is this his second race?
Yes.
Yeah, second race. He was third. Yeah. So to the race start, X shot into the lead.
I think this is like the fourth time in a row that X has charged into the lead.
Yeah.
He's a good starter.
And maybe we need better grammar.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Rindt slotted in right behind X, with Siffert and Regazzoni slotting in behind them. And these 4 drivers quickly pulled away from the rest of the field. So then the retirements happened, and a lot of them. So too many to mention, but the big names to go out included Brabham, Stewart, and the BRMs.
Okay.
The BRMs, they got mentioned.
Yeah.
That's tick.
It's a big name, yeah.
Yeah. So the real attention, though, was the slipstreaming battle at the front. While X was in the lead more often than not, the others included Rindt, Regazzoni, Eamon, and Siffert. And these positions of the drivers were changing a lot.
Except for X. He was at the front. But I think this track with its long straights is suiting that powerful V12. It reminds me, like when you're describing the racing, it reminds me of the Monza track. Like it's the slipstreaming and the fast straights and stuff.
Oh, okay. It does sound like it, doesn't it? So, yeah, he was mostly in front, like you said. But in the meantime, Holm in the McLaren was starting to work his way through the field. And at
in the McLaren?
Yeah, where did he qualify? I don't have the qualifying sheet in front of me, but let's just go with it.
Okay.
So he started, let's put it this way, he obviously wasn't up there. So he was working his way through the field, and at half distance, the leading quartet were still slipstreaming and battling. And this time it was Rindt, followed by X, Regazzoni, and at times Eamon in the march.
Okay, so there were 2 Ferraris in this slipstreaming battle. I wonder if they're working together to outmaneuver the Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, considering they, no telemetry like we've said.
No, that's right.
They were just using common sense and reading the room and making sure they didn't push each other too much.
Yeah.
Or just like, let's not bully each other as much as we bully the others, you know? Yeah, so they may have had a code.
Maybe. Yeah, hand signals.
Look at each other.
Yeah.
So by lap 31, and this is a 50-lap race, the retirement bug finally reached Regazzoni.
No.
And his engine seized. And this set the poor Swiss driver spinning out of the race. Eamon also retired with engine issues.
So now we've just got X and Rindt slipstreaming each other at the front. Exciting. This is good.
So this they did. And in the words of Mike Lang, these two drivers changed the lead incessantly.
Ooh, good word. It's mainly used in a negative context normally, incessantly. But I like that Mike Lang uses it here, incessantly.
It's almost like incessantly is annoying.
Yeah, it is.
So he was annoyed that they kept changing. Now,
I know.
Yeah. Maybe who are these drivers? Does Mike have a bias?
I was going to say, why is he annoyed that X and Rindt are racing hard? Yeah, weird. Look, I like the fact that he's gone out on a limb, took a bit of a risk using a new word, but I think he's used the wrong one. But
yeah,
anyway.
I agree. But we get the point, and it does sound awesome to watch.
Yes.
So with 2 laps to go, Rindt actually moved past the Ferrari, and from there, actually held on to win by 0.7 seconds to conclude a really exciting battle.
Oh, I was looking forward to a Ferrari win there, Louis.
I know, and it sounds like it was damn close. Rindt's winning another race just at the end.
I know.
Yeah. So X certainly wasn't backing off, and he set the fastest lap of the entire race on lap 49 of 50. So he was not settling, right?
He's very competitive, I tell you.
Yeah. So further back, even more retirements took place, and it was left to Holm to take third, about 1 minute 20 behind those other 2 guys.
Well, that's pretty good because he qualified 16th, Luigi.
Oh, wow. What a good drive. Yeah.
Yes. But, I mean, there was a lot of retirements, but still, he, And this is Rindt's 4th win in a row.
Wow. And this is probably McLaren's best result since the passing of Bruce McLaren. So they probably were celebrating this podium, even though it was 1 minute 20 behind.
Yes.
It's still something positive to, you got to grab onto the positives as and when they arrive.
Yeah. So the standings for the Drivers' Championship are now Jochen Rindt on 45, miles ahead of his next competitor, which is Jack Brabham on 25. Denny Holmes on 20, Jackie Stewart's on 19. Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's pretty, like how many races we got left? 6?
5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 5.
And we've got Lotus Ford on 50, miles ahead again of March Ford on 33, Brabham Ford's on 29, and McLaren Ford's on 27. Ferrari's on 16. Woohoo!
Yeah, they got there. They finally
got on
passed,
the leaderboard.
They've passed BRM and Matra.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next race, which we'll do next episode, is the Austrian Grand Prix. And that's
it's a rinse home race.
His home race and big championship lead. So exciting for him.
Yes, we might leave it there because we're trying to space this season out a little bit. So we'll be back for part 4.
Okay, see you all then. Bye.
Bye.